All right, welcome back everybody to the highest impact Klaviyo email marketing YouTube channel on the platform. My name is Philip. Today we are going to be talking about how to use Klaviyo effectively, okay? So you stop wasting time and more importantly, you stop losing out on potential revenue. Now, what specifically are we going to cover in this actual video? Well, first things first. We're going to talk about what the highest leverage pieces of your Klaviyo account are, because there are certain things in the account that are higher leverage than others, okay? There's certain things you want to be spending your time on as opposed to others in the beginning that are going to yield you a higher percentage return right off the bat in a shorter time frame, okay? We're going to talk about how to think about your Klaviyo account, kind of more of an abstract one, but kind of playing into this first point as well. How do you look at the account overall, right? I've worked with over 50 different brands. I've talked to a lot of e-commerce brand owners. And different people just have different philosophies when it comes to Klaviyo, but there are objectively certain things which should be in line before you move on to the others. So we're going to talk about what those are and kind of the hierarchy of them and what you should touch first and what you should optimize first. We're going to talk about the 6 core flows that drive pretty much 80% of your automated revenue. There's a lot of, crazy, personalized, segmented flows that you can build, and trust me, we build a lot of them at my agency, but really there's about 6 fundamental ones that drive the majority of your revenue. We're going to talk about how to send campaigns that actually increase sales without spiking unsubscribes, without getting bad open rates, without having engagement go down the drain, okay? There's a fine balance there. And more importantly, we're going to talk about what to actually test in your account moving forward, okay? Testing is arguably the most important piece. So why should you listen to me? Well, if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're here again, welcome back. So my name is Philip. I have generated over $20 million in added email revenue through Klaviyo alone. And as of this recording, actively, I manage over 30 different 6, 7, 8, as well as 9-figure e-commerce brands who are doing over $100 million per year in revenue. We work with some of the fastest growing brands in the entire world, honestly. And so I've added 6 figures to brands' monthly revenues within a matter of weeks. And if you don't believe me, here's a screenshot right here of a random account. And again, I could send you tons of screenshots. Just kind of DM me whatever you want to see, to be honest with you, of an account doing 70% attribution from Klaviyo, up 405%. So right here are the highest levers that you can pull inside of your account, okay? First things first, you must understand that some things in the account are just objectively easier and better to touch, okay? It sounds kind of silly, but some things are worth your time. Some things are still worth your time, but it can wait, if that makes sense, okay? There's an order at which you want to improve things, okay? Now, first things first, it starts with deliverability, okay? When I get into an account, I'm not looking at the sign-up form. I'm not looking at the flows. The first thing I always do is I look at their deliverability. I look at their sender reputation. I look at their open rates. I look at their engagement on their emails. This is the foundation for everything. If you are going to spam, like literally nothing matters, okay? You could have a killer sign-up form, killer flows, but if no one's seeing them, it does not matter, okay? So we're going to talk a little bit more about this, okay? So always, everything starts with deliverability. That's the top of the pyramid, okay? Next, we have your sign-up form, okay? So the sign-up form is, again, you'll hear me in all of my other videos. I'm a nerd with sign-up forms. We have some of the highest converting sign-up forms in the game. We have forms doing 15, 17, 18% submission rates. The sign-up form is the floodgates to your list, okay? It's very important that your sign-up form is, just converting as high as humanly possible, okay? And that has a ripple effect throughout the account. If you're a larger account and you can get your sign-up form up 1%, right? If you're getting a lot of traffic, that 1% can add tens of thousands of dollars to your business, right? And so it's very important that you really spend a lot of time on the sign-up form, okay? Next is your flows, right? Okay, that's kind of the order there. Deliverability, sign-up form, flows. Flows are on autopilot. Obviously, in order to have good flows, it starts with the form, right? You need to have a proper funnel into these flows. You could have the most awesome flows in the world, but if no one's getting into them because you have a 2% submission rate and you never test your form and people are barely signing up, despite the fact that you're getting a lot of site traffic, well, it doesn't really matter, right? But once you have these two in check, the next option, not the next option, but the next kind of piece you would look at are your flows, and you would want to overhaul those, make sure they're long enough, make sure you have the right filters, make sure the content is on par, okay? And I'll talk about a little bit more of that in this actual video. So first things first, you want to make sure your deliverability is actually in check, okay? What do I mean by that? Well, your open rate should be at least 50%, okay? 50% is honestly the bare minimum. We have accounts doing, as you can see here, 55, 60%. Any more than I would say like 65%, and you're kind of just pushing it. Usually what that means is you could actually open up the segment a little bit more and send to more people. So a lot of people will see like, oh, I have a 75% open rate. That's amazing. Like we have such good deliverability. It's like, yeah, but you're not sending to enough people. Like you want to basically tiptoe that line, right? You want to have 50 to 60% open rates and be sending to as many people as possible, right? Because I could have a 70% open rate, but I could also have a 50% open rate and send to 40,000 more people. You see what I mean? So it's kind of a fine balance there. And at the end of the day, whatever produces more revenue, right? That's the ultimate goal. In terms of deliverability, never reuse or resend creatives, okay? I see a lot of brands doing this when I do audits on their strategies. I'll see like 4th of July sale, email number 1. And then 2 days later, 4th of July sale, resend of email number 1. 3 days later, 4th of July sale, like, you know what I mean? It's just, don't do that. It really fatigues your list. People need to be kind of stimulated with different things nowadays. I know it can be kind of time intensive to come up with new designs every single time, but I mean, that's what the most effective email marketing teams are doing. That's what we do, right? Every design we make is fresh. Now, if it's the same promotion, it doesn't have to be like you're totally reinventing yourself every time, but it has to be different, right? Don't use the same hero sections, switch up the layout, right? Kind of keep people on their toes, because believe it or not, when people open your emails, that should trigger dopamine in their brains. And if they're seeing the same design over and over again, they're just not going to care, right? They're just not, okay? So make sure you're not resending things. Only send to engaged segments of your list, right? Usually 60 to 120 day openers. We usually do 90-day openers, but again, anywhere in this range, it really depends. Like if you can, again, you just want to maximize the amount of people you're sending to while keeping open rates high. So if you, for some reason, and you're just crazy account, you have very loyal subscribers, you can do a segment of like 365 day openers and your open rates are above 55%, by all means, go for it. But never send an email out to your entire list, like with no segment, unless it's like a huge sale that you want to hit everybody, right? And if you want to do that, by the way, you have to understand that your deliverability will take a hit, right? Like for Black Friday, for a couple sends during their Black Friday sale, for a lot of our clients, we will send to the entire list, and the open rate will be like 40% or so, because a lot of those people aren't engaged, So you have to understand and be okay with kind of taking a small hit right there to reach all those people, because for these big sales, you will be able to reactivate a lot of these people. They'll come out of the shadows for your crazy like 50% off sale, right? But outside of that, if you're not running something crazy like that, don't try it. You'll just tank things. Also, excuse me, kind of a slept on one here. Maintain consistent cadences of actual campaigns. People get lazy with the campaigns. I see a lot of brands come to me and they're like, well, why do we have such low open rates? Why is our deliverability so bad? Like we send to engaged, people on our list, and it's like they're sending a campaign maybe like once a month or something, or it's been 2 months since they sent a campaign, and now their flows are kind of feeling the heat, right? So you need to have consistency. Inbox providers like Yahoo, Google, Outlook, whatever, iCloud, they want to see consistency. They want to build a score, a reputation with you. And if you just go ghost, if you don't send anything for 2 months, like they're just going to be like, who the heck is this guy when you start sending again, right? And people are going to forget about you. They're going to stop caring. And so when you finally reappear in their inbox, like it's just inevitable. Some people are not going to care. They haven't seen you in 2 months. Like they don't care. They're not going to open it. And it just has a spiral effect, right? So make sure you're being consistent. And also, no brainer here, compress your images. We take all of our images from Figma, right? All of our emails are designed in Figma. And then we splice them up and we put them into Klaviyo, and they're image-based. We do a lot of text-based stuff too, but you get the point. So make sure you're compressing your images. They should be pretty small files. Nothing should be over a megabyte. That's a lot for an email. Klaviyo actually just released a compression tool within the actual builder, so you guys should be fine with that. Here are some examples of what good engagement look like, right? Super high open rates, pretty good open rates, right? They're not like 80%, but again, you don't want to have 80%. And your click rates are really strong right here. And obviously you see the revenue was great off of only 14,000 recipients. We made 25 grand. So I have a whole other video on this too if you want to see that. But yeah, that's deliverability. Okay. And here's the video I was talking about. If you're stuck in spam right now, if you're like, damn, I'm getting 12% open rates, like what do I do? Like my life is over. It's not over. Like watch my video. It's about 30 minutes long. I literally tell you step by step exactly how to get out of spam. So if you're interested, watch that. Okay. Now, number 2, this is my favorite part. I love sign-up forms if you've ever seen my channel. So this right here, this is what comes after you have really good deliverability. Okay. And if you already have good deliverability, then you want to start here. Okay. So you should be aiming for at least 6% submit rate. Now, when I say 6%, honestly, most brands can hit a lot higher. I would say the average for us is like 8 to 12%. Some brands, depending on how big you are, like if you're a massive brand, we have brands who are getting like 200, 300,000 form views per month. It's very hard to hit like a 12% submit rate on a brand that's getting 300,000 views per month. It's just a lot more difficult. There's way more volume. Usually the traffic is coming from a lot of different places, right? So yeah, but if you're a brand who's, a little bit more medium, small size, you can easily hit 13, 14% if you're testing things, which I'll talk about in a second here, okay? Your trigger, your actual what deploys the form, shouldn't really be more than 4 to 6 seconds. I will say if you're selling like super, super high ticket products, like I'm talking like above $3,000 a pop, try, 8 to 12 seconds just because you want to give people a little bit more time to like see more of you and get more accustomed to what you're selling and whatnot. But if you're selling anything under that price point, honestly, we've tested it and I have tons of different brands that we've done this with. 4 to 6 seconds is usually the best, okay? And make sure it's not an exit intent form. A lot of people, for some reason, I've been seeing it a lot lately, they'll have their main sign-up form, and I go to targeting and I look at the settings, and it's an exit intent form also. It's set to deploy when they're leaving the page. Like, you should have your main form and an exit intent form. They should be separate forms. And your exit intent form should have a different offer than whatever your main form is. So if you're giving 10% off as soon as you land on the site, your exit intent form should not be 10% off. If they didn't subscribe the first time, like why would they subscribe the second time after, like what's changed? You know what I mean? Nothing. You want to give them something else so maybe they respond to this new offer. Everyone's different. You want to use different triggers, see what bites, right? So if you're giving 10%, give them 15 in the exit intent. Or if you're giving 10% and you don't want to give a higher discount, you don't have to. Give them like a enter to win raffle, or give them a free guide on whatever your industry is, right? A million things you could do, but the point is make them different offers and make sure they're separate forms, okay? Sorry, let me open this up. Make sure your actual offer is bold, it's clear, it's simple, right? Honestly, it should be less than 6 words, but max it should be 6 words. Look at how almost obnoxiously large this offer is, and this is a form we've built for a client, and it's crushing it, right? And I'll explain why in a second here, but part of it is because their offer is so incredibly clear, right? There's no question about what they're getting. You have to understand people are scrolling through these forms like quick, they're halfway over to the X button before the form's done deploying. So make sure that it's big. Design, okay? Make sure that it is actually, like the actual images inside of it are not, again, they're not too big and they're compressed. I don't like full screen pop-ups. We typically do around like 75% of the screen. So just like the large option on Klaviyo, minimal copy as well. Don't overload it with text. It's just not going to work. You're distracting from the call to action, okay? And as you can see here by my lots of caps lock here, you want to be running A/B tests. I need to change this, honestly. Let me do weekly here. You should be running A/B tests weekly on your form. It's too high leverage to not run it weekly, okay? You should be testing the offer, the timing, the images in the form. We've done image versus no image. And for some reason, sometimes for some audiences, the no image form just performs better. Like it looks uglier, but it performs better. So at the end of the day, you know what I mean? So yeah, you have to play with these things. The sign up form is too important not to do that with. So here's an example of a great form. I have a whole other video. I have 2 videos actually on how to build like killer sign up forms, monster sign up forms. So if you want to see that, just go ahead and click off and go to my channel there. Actually, no, finish this video and then go click off. But yeah, so this right here is a good example. You'll notice we have a huge offer, not a lot of clutter on the screen. We're asking for a low commitment piece of info first. We're not asking for the email up front. You never want to do that. Okay. And we're asking for preferences, right? People like feeling heard and they like feeling like they're a part of a process. So that's a good form right there. This right here is another good form, similar version, just different offer, different brand, but less options to choose from. And they're doing a dollar amount off instead of a percentage off. So you can do that. This right here is actually one of our clients as well in a different language. So I think it's Swedish. We do a lot of languages for them, but this I believe is Swedish. Same design, right? Different image placement. We've been testing these. Like everything here is meticulous, right? And again, the form doesn't have to be like super complicated, right? Like I see people trying to overcomplicate the form. Like it doesn't have to be crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Simple, less is more with forms, right? Big, clear offer, micro commitment, and image usually is the way to go. So there's another example there. And here's a brand that we work with as well, who actually for their specific audience, the micro commitment didn't perform better, right? So that's why testing is important, because I would say for like 90% of brands, the micro commitment performs better. But for some brands, it doesn't, right? So they're one of those brands and they're converting at about, I think about a 13% or so. I have to check that. But yeah, here's another example of how you can do it, right? Bright colors, it's right in your face, huge offer, and that's that. We're not trying to do too many things here, okay? So that is the sign up form, okay? Now, in terms of your flows, okay, make sure that you have the 6 core automations, the fundamental automations in your account. And don't just make sure you have them, make sure they're actually effective and they're good and they're properly built out, okay? Now, the first thing that I want to go over here is your welcome flow. Okay, obviously this is usually the biggest moneymaker when it comes to e-commerce flows. 6 to 8 emails is typically what you want to have in there. I would say the only caveat to that is if you are selling, again, like very high ticket products. I'll make a whole separate video on like low ticket products versus high ticket products when it comes to email marketing. But if you're selling high ticket products, your welcome flow should be a lot longer. It should honestly be like 10 to 12 emails. And it shouldn't so much be like going for that kill and going for that sale. It should be more like subtle trust building, education, social proof, like all of that stuff just on steroids. Like you still want to do that with low ticket, but for high ticket, it's just like on steroids. Like these people are about to spend 5K with you or whatever it is. The sales cycle is a lot more intensive. It's a lot longer. People aren't just like giving you their credit card first time on the site, sign me up for 10K, right? Like you have to make sure you're priming these people properly. But again, I'll make a whole separate video on that. 6 to 8 emails is typically what you want to do. Converting warm leads into paying customers. That's the goal here. Okay. You know, people try to complicate the welcome flow, or they just don't do enough in the welcome flow. They just have like a code and that's it. And it's like, no, give them the code, show them reviews of real customers, show them UGC, highlight, you know, unique selling propositions in easy to read and easy to scan ways. So I have a whole design video as well on my channel, but you don't want to be listing text out in like paragraphs, right? Just keep it simple. Make sure you're using graphics, icons, images to get points across, okay? So that's the welcome flow. And again, I have a whole YouTube video on like specifically how to go in and literally I walk through each flow, like how to set it up, what to include in it. I have a diagram and a chart of each flow you could just copy. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and click on that video, you know, or just find it on my channel. But, you know, we do abandoned cart flows, abandoned checkout. Those are the other 2 abandonment flows. Very, very high intent flows right here. These are separate flows. I've seen a lot of accounts only have one or the other, but these are different flows. Okay, so they're 4 emails each. Again, this person was almost down your funnel. They were almost there. They were almost at the finish line, but they didn't complete it for whatever reason. So your goal now is to get them to come back, show them social proof. Again, show them trust, build trust with them. And if you are going to give them an incentive, don't do it on the first email. I'll talk about that later. You can actually save margin by giving them a discount later on in the flow, like 3rd, 4th email. You don't have to give it to them right off the bat. You're just shooting yourself in the foot there. So I'll talk about that as well. Your post-purchase flow, this is a huge one. Brands overlook it. A lot of brands just think it's like, hey, order confirmation. No, order confirmation is different. That's done through Shopify. They have that generic email. Hey, here's your order number. Here's your track, whatever, right? Post-purchase through Klaviyo is totally different. This is an experience. We're trying to build this connection with them after they've given us money. We want to eliminate any buyer's remorse, okay? Because some people feel buyer's remorse, right? It happens to all of us. Impulse purchases, right? You want to eliminate that, reassure them they made the right purchase, right? Upsell them. The easiest person to convince to give you money is someone who's given you money in the past. So these people are fresh off of giving you their credit card. So you want to make sure that you are capitalizing on that and you are upselling them with complementary products or cross-selling them, whatever you want to do, right? That's a perfect time to do it, okay? And I have, again, a whole diagram on the post-purchase flow. I'll give you some free game right here, little bonus. First email in your post-purchase flow, make it a text-based email, like from the founder of the company or from whatever, the CMO of the company, whoever you want it to be. Make it a very intimate, personal email, very touchy-feely, like, hey, thanks so much for your purchase, means a lot. Welcome to the family. We started the brand 20 years ago in a garage, whatever, and this is why we made it, and we're so happy we get to give these awesome products to you guys, something like that, right? And at the very bottom, sign off, say, okay, thanks so much, Philip Moldavanu, you know, founder, Social Scout. And then at the very bottom, if you want to keep shopping, PS, click here. And that email just prints revenue. I'm telling you right now, try it out. It's awesome. So that's post-purchase. Also, you have a site abandonment flow, very simple flow. People forget it all the time. When someone visits your site and leaves, and then we have your browse abandonment flow. So when someone views a product and leaves, okay? So those are the core flows right there. That is what you want to make sure you have on your account. There's tons more flows you could do, right? Replenishment flows, subscription flows, win-back flows, sunset flows, like there's a million of them. But these are the core ones, okay? These are going to make up 80% of your revenue in your account if you're doing them properly, okay? So again, check out this video if you want to actually get more in depth on that, okay? Here are some different things to keep in mind when it comes to your flows, okay? First things first, never use smart sending, okay? Smart sending, when you're in Klaviyo and you click on a little node in the email, it'll have that little like icon. It's like an email box with like, I think it's like a check through it, right? On the very bottom left corner of the node. Turn that off. That is, I've literally seen that like destroy accounts, okay? If you're an account that's sending a lot of campaigns, even if you're not, you should turn it off. But especially if you're sending like upwards of 2 to 3 campaigns per week, you need to turn that off, because what happens is people will get entered into the flow, and smart sending will remove people from the flow if they've gotten an email recently, right? So if you're sending a lot of campaigns and these people get entered into the welcome flow, they're just not going to get delivered because they've gotten an email in the past, right? And they're not going to get their abandoned cart flow or whatever it is, right? So make sure you have that turned off, okay? Make sure you also have the correct filters on your flows. This right here, the filters are very important. I always do audits and I go in and I see brands which is like their welcome flow does not have a place order filter. So like they have 8 emails in the flow, but the person purchased off the first email and they're just getting sent email 2, 3, 4, and they're just getting spammed. And it's like, no, like make sure you have the right filters. Back to what I was saying before, don't introduce a discount in the abandoned cart / checkout flows until at least email number 3. Okay. So I see a lot of brands like first email, you forgot this, here's 10% off your order. And it's like, no, these people, like some of them just need a simple reminder. Some of them just need to see you some more. They need to see some more social proof. They need to be convinced. You don't need to just throw a discount at them. You're actually going to lose a lot of your margin, because we found that delaying the discount till about the 3rd or 4th email actually will help a lot with conversions. And we haven't seen, like for a lot of our accounts who were doing discount right off the bat, we haven't really seen like a huge drop off in conversion on that first email when removing the code. So it's like, if we can achieve the same amount of conversion without giving away 10% of our margin, like why wouldn't we just do that? You know, so make sure you're doing that. Always use urgency. So if you're giving a discount code, don't make it like welcome 10 or something generic like that, and then try to say, oh, you have 24 hours left. Like, no, come on. The shopper knows that that the code isn't going anywhere. So we do stuff like welcome KVX5. It's still a static code. The code is not going anywhere, but to the shopper, it appears like it's a static code, right? We don't use unique like dynamic codes, because then you can't really get creative over where you put it. And again, you always want the code to be very high up in the email. So again, I have a whole design video, but yeah, always make sure you're using urgency. You're using those static random codes is what we call them. And always use text-based emails. Not always, sorry, but just sprinkle them in, right? In our welcome flow, email number 2 and email number 7 are text-based emails. And the post-purchase flow, like I mentioned, first email is text-based, okay? So that's your flows. I know it was a mouthful there, but yeah, it's honestly just free game right there. Take that and run with it. Watch this video if you're curious, but yeah, that's going to be a big one for you guys. Now, this one right here, campaigns, the other side of it, okay? So you need to develop a consistent and relevant schedule when it comes to campaigns. Now, most e-commerce brands that I audit, I see that they are not sending enough campaigns. And funny enough, the brand owners will actually tell me like, oh, we're sending too many campaigns. And I want to be clear here. You know, there's a difference between like what you feel as an e-commerce owner, you know, as a brand owner, versus like what the numbers will say. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, like it's your brand, do whatever you feel, you know what I mean? But I'm just here to kind of give you the facts and the stats, you know what I mean? I'm here to make you money. So a lot of the times brand owners won't really want to send more campaigns because they feel like it's spammy. They feel like it's annoying. But a lot of times we'll be like, hey, let's try it out. And so we'll send more campaigns, relevant campaigns. We're not spamming promotions. That is what fatigues people. We'll send more relevant content more times per week, and we'll squeeze out way more sales, like thousands of dollars in extra sales per week. And engagement will stay good. Will stay great, actually. And unsubscribes will not go up. And so it's like, well, if the numbers are holding and you're making more revenue, like why wouldn't you just do it? You know what I mean? The numbers will tell you if people are getting fatigued or if people are getting annoyed and unsubscribing. Like the data will tell you that. You know what I mean? So just keep that in mind, right? Like, you know, that's a big thing that I've seen a lot of brand owners kind of like overcome. So yeah, that's that. You want to be sending pretty much 70% of your content, of your campaigns as value-based. And And the other 30% should be promotional. Like, don't get me wrong, you can't just send value-based content all the time, right? Like, I mean, you could, but if we're trying to maximize revenue, the best split is 70-30, right? Majority of your sends should be giving people stuff, not giving them stuff, but giving them value, right? Tips or tricks that relate to your industry, how to care for the product, how to do this, or, stuff like that, blog post, educational material that they would actually find interesting. The other 30% should be, hey, buy this product, we just launched, here's a sale, whatever it is, right? But you can't spam promotions, obviously. And campaigns obviously work best when your audience is in a cadence and they're kind of expecting to hear from you, if that makes sense, right? So you want to develop a schedule where you send campaigns usually at the same time on the same days every single week after you've tested that, okay? So once you kind of identify like what works best and what do people respond to best, that's when you want to stick with, because people will get into the habit subconsciously. They're not going to be like in their head like, oh, I can't wait for Philip's email today from his company. Like, no, they're not going to be thinking that, but they are subconsciously, like their internal clock will kind of expect to see your communication. So make sure you're doing that. Play around with, text-based emails like from the founder in campaigns, campaign emails like that crush versus like image heavy, like product features. So especially for sales, if you're running a sale, you should be priming people, right? And teasing them using text-based emails. So 3-4 days before the actual sale starts, send them an email, send out an email, text-based from the founder. Hey, we're launching the biggest sale of the year. Be ready. It's going to be awesome. We're biggest discounts of the whole year. That type of stuff crushes. So make sure you're doing that. And very simple here. Don't become discount reliant. Like, no one likes brands like that. Well, customers, they like brands like that, but they don't respect brands like that. Okay, there's a clear difference there. So make sure you're not doing all that, right? Make sure you have a good mix of, basically, you don't want people to get into the habit of only buying your products when they're on sale, right? You want to be able to sell your product at a high rate with high demand at full price. And if you're just spamming discounts, slowly that's going to degrade the brand equity, and you don't want that. So that's your campaigns right there, okay? Now, last thing I'll go over here and I'll let you guys go, okay? Class is almost out of session. So as you can see by this title, you should be testing everything in the account. I came back to this. I talked about it in the beginning. I'm back to it again because it's too important not to. So first things first, your sign up form. Here are all the things you can test. And there's obviously a lot more, but here are some of them. Time delay, offer, copy, micro commit versus no micro commitment, image versus no image. These are all things that you can test and figure out what performs better. Every brand is different. So there are kind of like frameworks for what will work across the board, but there are little nuances that can help you get to that next step. That's not just like a blanket approach. So you have to test these things to figure them out. A simple A/B test is all you need to do, and only test one thing at a time. If you're testing the time delay, the offer, the copy, and image versus no image at the same time, okay, well, like, you're not going to know what one of them might perform drastically better, but then you're like, okay, what actually did I change? Like, what actually is better? You know what I mean? So only test one thing at a time and then iterate and go off of that. So that's your sign up form. Flows, time delays, the email order, the sequence of which people actually receive the email, trying urgency earlier versus later in the flow. These are more advanced things to do, and they work better at higher volume because you have more data to work with, but you can definitely play around with that. Subject lines, the length of the emails, the actual tone and the messaging. Use of personalization I threw in there, but honestly, like, I've never really seen like personalizing the email to really increase conversions. I'm talking about like basic personalization, like, hey, Philip, like putting first name in the email doesn't really do much. I'll be totally honest with you, but play around with it. Again, every brand is different. The actual format of the emails. So again, came back to this image heavy versus text based. Should be testing that. We came to the conclusion that email number 2 and email number 7 of the welcome flow is best for putting text-based emails. You want the first impression to be like a very, dopamine experience, right? Very stimulating experience. But after that, you want the next impression of your brand to be very personal, like from the founder, depending on what type of company you are. So test that. But that right there is flows. And finally, when it comes to campaigns, we covered a lot of this, but send days, send times, figure out where do you kind of hit that sweet spot. Like a lot of brands, for example, a brand selling baby products, so baby apparel, right? They're selling to parents of kids, of toddlers, right? They found out that the best time to send for this brand, we found out, is actually at night. 9:30, 10 p.m. is usually the best time to send, is when they get the highest open rates and they get the highest place order rates, because the parents they put the kids to bed, they're winding down for the night. So every audience is different, kind of think about who your ICP is, who is your ideal customer profile, and make sure that you understand that, right? Also, the segments you're sending to. Play around with it, right? If you've been sending to a 60-day engaged segment for a long time and it's been working, open it up, see what happens, right? Play around with it. You don't want to get complacent in Klaviyo. There's a lot to Klaviyo, and you can do a lot of cool things with it if you allow yourself to. Frequency of campaigns. So if things are going well, try sending one more per week, see what happens, right? Are unsubscribes going to go up? Is your engagement going to go down? Like, see what happens, right? Usually that's never the case unless you're sending like 10 per week, but try it out, play with it. The offer framing. So how are you presenting your offers in these actual campaigns, right? It should be the first thing they see. It should be very clear, similar to the pop-up form. So play around with that, right? And of course, subject lines. A little bit more minimal, but if you're giving an offer, make sure the offer is in the subject line. Like, people are going to be more, compelled to open that versus something that's just like generic, right? So play around with all that stuff. That concludes this video. I appreciate you guys watching. It was a long one today. But if you have any questions, throw a comment down and I will respond to it as quickly as I can. If you want to get a full audit on your Klaviyo account by me personally and get on a call with me and talk about it, click the link in the description to book that call with me. I literally go through your entire account personally. I will tell you what you're doing wrong, where are the bottlenecks, where is the revenue being lost, and I'll tell you how much potential revenue we could add to your business. So I know a lot of this can be overwhelming. We'll handle it all for you. We're done for you agency, one of the best in the game. So let me know what you guys think. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.